Coming up next on Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable, a new report finds major workplace safety violations in the fighting of the Yarnell Hill fire. The governor forms a task force to oversee CPS investigations, and the latest on the campaign finance case against Attorney General Tom Horne. The Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable. I'm Ted Simons. Joining me tonight are Jeremy Duda of the Arizona Capital Times, Howard Fisher of Capital Media Services, and Doug McCackern of the Arizona Republic. State health and safety officials find a number of workplace violations in the fighting of the Yarnell Hill fire, the deadly Yarnell Hill fire. And this report, Jeremy, very different than the report we heard earlier this year.
Yeah, this really gets to the root of the question people have been asking for months, which is, really, how did this happen? What went wrong? They determined that the State Forestry Division made a number of pretty serious mistakes. They poor communications, poor planning. Even worse, they weren't following proper guidelines on wildfire fighting. They were directing people to defend these indefensible structures that put them in the midst of all this really thick growth. Put a lot of people in harm's way, and they fined them $559,000 for this, most of which is going to go to the families of these 19 firefighters who fell. The rest is punitive fees for making some of these mistakes.
And what's fascinating is the 559 sounds interesting, but as you point out, if you find some employer guilty of a knowing and willful violation, and if somebody dies at $25,000 per employee, you take that away. You've basically got $84,000 in fine for a problems that killed 19 firefighters. And under Arizona law, that's the maximum. And I think that left a lot of people shocked.
Well, and again, this report, I think, left a lot of people somewhat surprised in that anyone expecting a whitewash, anyone expecting, well, it was, nature's fury, all this kind of business. We didn't get much of that. We got a lot of, you should have known this, you could have done that.
They're very forthright. They're very straight, and as a matter of fact, they were so clearly going to take the issue head on that the U.S. Forest Service declined to participate in
Why was that?
the issue. Well, I believe it had something to do with the fact that they were afraid that it was going to be put on the record, and they didn't want to have a public record released with the testimony from their personnel floating out there in public.
And what's part of what makes it interesting, and your initial question touches on this, is the Forestry Division did its own, I'll use the term loosely, investigation, which came out earlier this year, which basically said, forces of nature and no command problems, nothing we did went wrong. And that's the real turnaround about this, and that's why the family members were in the audience and saying, we don't believe that. Because essentially, if you bought the Forest Division report, then it must have been the fault of the firefighters, and that's what concerned me.
Yeah, it was the original one was a classic mistakes were made kind of report. This one, like we said, took the issue head on. It does expose some legal liabilities here. I mean, it does build a lawyer's case in this thing, and that, I suppose, is a downside. I understand that the homeowners are considering a lawsuit, and I, for the life of me, can't figure out what in the world they would have standing on, but maybe they will. But the upside, I think, is the fact that we now have a record to go forward on to try and protect firefighters in the future, to figure out what mistakes really were made, and they found some, and correct them to see to it that they don't happen again.
One of them, which was interesting, is they pointed out that the Forestry Division is supposed to have a safety officer. This is a person assigned not to figure out how to fight the fire, not to figure out if there are enough resources there. That person's primary focus is the safety of the firefighters, looking at the big picture, looking at the weather, looking at the winds, looking at the deployment, and if necessary, pulling people out. The department, the division, had failed to fill the position. And that was what led to one of the violations. They said, you can't simply ignore that person's function.
I think real quickly, Doug, on your point, I noticed that one of the complaints, one of the criticisms, one of the findings was that strategies and tactics failed after the fire jumped the lines. In other words, they did not attack this aggressively early enough, thus a homeowner could say, if you'd have done what that report said, maybe the home wouldn't have been damaged.
Well, curiously enough, when these firefighters died, they were still tactically in attack mode.
Yes.
They were, and that was one of the big criticisms, that they shouldn't have been in an aggressive mode with a fire that was that kind of conflagration. They should have been pulled back and
that led to the other piece. Everybody knew, according to this report, it was monsoon season and there was a thunderstorm coming. It was very clear. Now, there was an issue of whether the winds didn't come from where they were expected to. You see a thunderstorm coming, and knowing the kind of winds, you pull people out, and they didn't do that.
And again, bottom line, commanders knew enough of the conditions, according to the report, knew enough of the conditions to promptly remove firefighters. With this information now, what does the legislature do?
It's hard to say. I'm sure there'll be a lot of focus on this. I mean, we've already heard some talk. There were people calling for special sessions early in the year just for benefits for the families. Now people are going to have to start taking a serious look at how this crew operates, how the fire division, approaches these situations. And I'm sure there's probably already some folks with some ideas based on what we've seen this week.
Yeah, I think from a little bit higher in the stratosphere over this one, I think that something that the legislature really needs to look at desperately is the issue of remediation, forest remediation, and getting the money, whatever the state spends, in front of the fire rather than spending it all on the back end as we have been. And seeing all this.
Getting in front of an issue as opposed to reacting once it's a problem is coming up here shortly when we discuss another topic.
Yeah, but
quickly.
you've got two issues in there. Number one, in terms of remediation, unless you're going to force homeowners to clear a defensible space around their homes and tell them, that they, yes, I like being nestled in the pines. Well, guess what? Pines burn.
Some states are now. Oregon,
they are.
Oregon is demanding
But
that.
I'm not sure I see this legislation doing it. The more immediate thing you talk about the legislature is the governor and her administration have 15 days from the finding to decide whether to appeal. 550. It's not the size of the fine. They burn up $559,000 on a good afternoon there. The question is, do they decide to fight it or pay it? We'll know that in less than 2 weeks.
You're only going to fight $84,000 here because good luck trying to say we don't really think that the $25,000 per firefighter should be going to this.
Except for the fact that if they fight the $70,000 fine of willful.
Yes.
If you don't have the willful violation, the $25,000 per firefighter goes away.
Good luck trying to convince the masses that that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
All right, you mentioned getting in front of a problem. Some folks say that the CPS problem wouldn't exist if preventative measures had been taken earlier. We'll get to that conversation later. But we have now an oversight team over an oversight team over there are people probing all over the place here. What's going on?
Yes, the newest layer of investigation on the CPS situation. Governor Brewer put together the CARE team. There's an 8-person team that's going to investigate all of these, or at least as many as possible, of these 6,500 child abuse allegations that went uninvestigated over the last few years. They're going to look at how this happened, which makes them one of 3 or so groups taking a look at this, and who knows how much any of these are going to turn up, or if there's going to be more. You've got a legislative oversight committee.
Of course, one of the fascinating things that came out of that same press conference is the governor asked about Mr. Carter as director of DES and said, he's doing a fine job, which sort of reminds me of a certain former president who said, "You're doing a fine job here, Brownie." It's hard to know. Look, on one hand, I understand the argument that Bill Montgomery makes. You don't fire somebody for bringing something forward. Now, recognizing it was brought forward because of the independent investigator. On the other hand, even the governor admitted at the press conference that this department has not been transparent, has not been forthcoming. This department's been under Clarence Carter now for almost 3 years. Why isn't some of that his fault?
And in her defense of Carter, she said, CPS wasn't really bringing forward this information. They weren't doing what they needed to do. There was a breakdown of communication. They weren't bringing this stuff to the people above them. And as you have all these people at the legislature and all around the Capitol trying to figure out how do we fix CPS yet again, which is a pretty annual tradition. There's you're seeing some talk of taking the Division of Children, Youth, and Families, which is the portion of DES that oversees CPS and making it a separate agency, which I know is an idea that's come up, here and again throughout the years.
Many times. Yes.
Well, and let's talk about that. I mean, this is a perpetual story here. We now have a DPS investigation. We got the CPS looking at itself. We've got this blue ribbon panel looking at everything they can look at. Everyone's going to be reporting. Is anything going to change?
Well, this is a problem that every state faces. Every state has a crisis with its own version of CPS. Not all of them are as mind-bending as this one. How in the world you can add $80 million to an agency's budget and then suddenly have everything fall apart is beyond me. But nevertheless, I think it's going to be a perennial issue as long as you've got a growing state with parents out there that shouldn't be parents.
And the other half of it, and Doug has seen this because he's been down there as long as I have, is the legislature plays games. We go from preserve the family at all costs,
right.
Do whatever you have to do. Now, we're not necessarily going to provide the resources to help the family, to then somebody dies, and then it's at all costs, take the child out, no matter the slightest little thing, but we don't have foster parents. And so we play this ping pong game down there and leaving CPS in the middle trying to figure out, well, what the hell are we supposed to do?
Well, where's the paddle right now in this ping pong game? Is it more money? Is it you got enough money? Is it keep the family? Is it do what you? It sounds like it's get those kids out of there and then try and figure things out, because law enforcement now is taking a heavy hand.
Yeah, it depends on who you talk to. I mean, a lot of folks are beating the more money drum right now. The legislative leaders not so keen on that. They point out that as Doug mentioned, funding has gone up, but if you look at their caseloads, the average caseload per caseworker, that's been going up too, despite the funding. That funding goes to other things. A lot of reports are on the rise. So even though they have more money, these people are more overworked, which is how you end up with the type of shortcuts that led to these 6,500 cases.
And I love this. Andy Biggs, who's the Senate president, said, well, the reason the cases have gone up is we gave them more money and they went out and advertised for people to report child abuse. So therefore, we got more false cases. And so this is his argument. So when the president of the state Senate is saying, look, we gave them more money and they went out and advertised for more cases, we got a real disconnect here.
All right.
One interesting side note for everyone who's looking for some legislative fix this session. We have a feature in our paper on this week in history thing, and we looked back 10 years ago for this upcoming week's paper, and we noticed what was the legislature doing 10 years ago this week? They were in a special session to fix CPS.
Yes.
One of the things that they mandated in that, CPS is required by law to investigate every case. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, it just seems to me that there are states out there doing this better, maybe not the best, but better. Just copy them. Just do what they're doing and get it over with.
Well, that becomes one of the arguments over, we now have the 3 quote-unquote oversights, and one of the arguments is, why don't we bring somebody in from other states where they are doing it right to say,
yes.
Look, we've tried your model, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it feels like you're reinventing the wheel down there and the wheel keeps wobbling off the cart. All right, let's talk about campaign finance now. What's going on with the Tom Horne case? Something happened today?
Yes, Tom Horne and his ally Kathleen Wynne, they're challenging the constitutionality of Arizona's contribution limits, or at least the contribution limits in 2010, which is where this whole case stems from. And this is separate but related to the actual campaign finance case against them. They're saying, these limits are unconstitutionally low, and therefore, we shouldn't be prosecuted under this statute because it's unconstitutional.
Yeah.
So if the limits are unconstitutional, then we didn't actually do anything wrong. See you guys later.
And that goes to the issue that, if you remember, Kathleen Wynne ran a $500,000 ad after Tom started sliding in the polls. The Yavapai County Attorney, Sheila Polk, said based on the information she had gotten from the FBI, well, wait, she was on the phone with Tom while she was emailing the campaign consultant, and there seems to be coordination. What happens is, and the reason the campaign finance limits become an issue is, she can certainly do independent campaigns, but if he was directing it, it's not her money, it's his money. He can't take $500,000 or large amounts of the 100,000 coming in from individual donors. Right. So he was in violation of the $840 limit. If the $840 limit is unconstitutionally too low, based on court cases which say you have to be able to wage an effective campaign, then that goes away. So do the charges.
But what also went away today was their lawsuit against these contribution limits. They filed this earlier in the year, and the judge threw it out because at the time they weren't actually facing any charges. This is after Maricopa County Attorney's Office had been booted off of the case, and Sheila Polk up in Yavapai County was still trying to figure out what to do with it. The judge said, well, you're not actually facing charges, so this is all moot. Now that the charges have been filed by Sheila Polk, they came back and said, well, we should be able to bring this forward now, we need this as a defense. And they said, and the judge said, well, that may be true, but you still have to go through this court case first. You could win that, so we're going to let that go through first, and we're going to get rid of this contribution limits challenge.
Yeah, politically, it's a great case to bring up, and I think the judge even indicated that somewhere down the line said that's going to come into play. It just doesn't have any bearing on their cases as it exists now. The interesting thing about Polk's review of the collusion between those two is that, in fact, remember at the time, Wynn was also his realtor, and he was actually in the process of doing a big real estate deal at the time.
Haven't those phone records kind of been looked at, though, and it seemed as though there was a little bit of a lopsided...
Well, that's the contention of Sheila Polk. Fact is, when I talked to the deputy Yavapai County attorney, he said when Montgomery was prosecuting it, he was doing it based on, look how many contacts there were. No, we're going to focus on a few specific incidents, and we're going to show that there is no other reasonable explanation. Now, the problem is, we've got the emails. There was nobody tapping the phone, so what was occurring on the phone? Who knows? You know,
it's just the timing of the calls.
It's the timing and the duration, and the questions, including the fact that they contacted one of Horn's relatives to get some of the money. It raises questions.
And they very well may come up with that. The interesting thing to keep in mind in all of this, however, is that every single player, every single candidate practically anymore, has got a curious understanding with an independent campaign group that does campaigning, that does all the negative heavy lifting on your behalf, which allows all these candidates to do clean as the driven snow.
And here's what gets even more interesting. The laws about coordination do not prohibit the candidate from coordinating with the committee in terms of raising money. In other words, Tom Horn is very free to tell somebody who's maxed out on what they can give him, go give over here. The law deals with the expenditure side. Now, you're really getting deep in the weeds here, and the issue of what can you know and when can you know it and what is coordination. This is going to be a fascinating case.
Please.
Now you mentioned that the real estate deal, which they say is, well, this is why we had so many phone calls. This is why we called in between all these emails. The problem is that Horn and Wynn have a lot of explanations for why they made these calls at these times, why there were so many calls. Kathleen Wynn has an explanation for why she was making certain references in emails to her consultant about how we want to change this or that. And if you take those individually, they can explain them all away. The problem is that there's a very low evidentiary standard they're going to have to face when this goes to court. Preponderance of evidence, which is basically a 51% chance that they did this. So once you add all these things together, if a judge looks and says this adds up to 51% or more, then that's the ballgame.
I want to go one step further. Maybe make my first early prediction for the year-end show that Doug and I are going to be on. I think that Horn recognizes that having this thing drag on through the administrative law hearing in February and appeals after that into the primary is not good. I think somehow this is going to get settled out, and he's going to reach some sort of plea deal to settle the case, and it will not go all the way through court.
Ooh, good prediction there, huh?
Yeah, I was going to say bold, and we will get to that year-end show, of course, coming up here as the year ends. But before we end this particular program, we've got to talk about what seems to be an interest from Terry Goddard on running for
anything. Terry feels a draft. I feel a draft. Somebody wants me. They love me. It's like Sally Fields. You really love me. Terry has been nosing around out there for something to run for. Well, Fred Duvall has kind of sucked out all the air in terms of governor. Then he looked at Attorney General, a job he's had. Well, if he were to suddenly try to elbow Felicia out of the way, I think she would hurt him in ways he can't imagine. Well, what does that leave in terms of high profile? He doesn't want to be on the Corporation Commission, that's sort of terminally boring. oh, that's the Secretary of State's job.
But he doesn't want to be on the Corporation Commission, but some heavy hitters would like to see him on the Corporation Commission.
Yeah, Jim Peterson, the former party chair, big Democratic Party financier, he's been pushing Goddard to run for this as well. You've got a lot of expertise in these issues. You've got a name that could actually win this, which is a tough race for Democrats to win. Nobody knows who these people are when they vote for them. They just vote for the RRD. But that could also, play well for the Democrats in the Secretary of State's race, which is kind of the same thing. And, usually the Democrats at a disadvantage because there's just more Republicans than Democrats. But, people could look at it and say, well, Terry Goddard, I know him. He's
Secretary of
AG.
State race. Could he win that general election?
I think he potentially could. I think it would still be an uphill climb just because he's still going to be a Democrat.
And you've got perhaps a potentially bloody Republican primary out there, and if they bloody each other and Terry walks in, and people say Secretary of State, what harm could that possibly do? Which is why the Republicans for decades now have been trying to rename it Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah.
And yes, that's a race that the Democrats could win.
And it's also an office that may get Terry Goddard as close to the governor's seat as he's ever been.
It may be, but really they could use him more on the Corporation Commission. I think it's never good to have all one party in.
That's okay. Have you watched how these Republicans have been getting along on the Corporation Commission?
All right, we'll stop it right there. Thank you so much. Monday on Arizona Horizon, members of the latest CPS oversight team discuss their goals in examining child protective services, and travel writer Roger Naylor talks about his latest work, Death Valley, the hottest place on earth. Those stories Monday on Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.